Sri Lanka has granted permission for the high-tech Chinese tracking vessel Yuan Wang 5 to dock at the Hambantota Port after India and according to local media reports, the US failed to give concrete reasons for why they opposed its arrival. According to the Sri Lankan media, the ship will dock at the Hambantota International Port on the 16th of August, 5 days later than originally scheduled. Sri Lanka had asked the docking to be deferred after India raised strong concerns citing national security. Requested China to defer the visit until further consultations were held on the matter. The vessel abruptly changed track earlier this week. However, it is now heading towards Hambantota again. This is something that has been flashed and flagged by India in the past as well. Is this going to become a security concern for us? And is this what we get in return for helping Sri Lanka out? Because this vessel, if docked at the Hambantota, which rightfully has been under lease by the Chinese, is capable of disrupting our security apparatus and blanket as well. Ambassador Manju Seth, former diplomat, joins us on this all-important discussion. Major General A.K. Sivaj, former head of Territorial Army, geostrategic and defence expert, also joining us on the show. Commodore Anil Jay Singh, Vice President of the Indian Maritime Foundation, also joins us on the program. Last but not the least, Arvind Singh Tejawat, Visiting Professor, University of Kelaniya. He joins us from Sri Lanka at this point in time. General Sivaj, if I can start by asking you a simple question, sir, and if you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Well, this is definitely, a flip-flop from Sri Lanka. We helped Sri Lanka during their toughest phases, but they seem to be themselves caught up between the devil and the deep blue sea. They have a right to tell China, if they can defer this particular vessel from docking at Hambantota, but at the same time, China also has a right to dock whichever vessel it wants at this particular port.
Absolutely. We need no doubt about it. First of all, I am sure the Sri Lankans have understood, who is the true friend. As far as China is concerned, when the checks were down, Sri Lanka requested for loan. No further loan was given, and they said first sign a free trade agreement, then only further loans or subsequent loan will be given. But India came forward. We gave almost $4 billion in terms of currency swap as well as a soft loan, and also given a 40,000 uric ton for their agriculture. So it is India which came forward, and India raised this objection when this spy ship, though they are saying it's a space tracking ship, but it's a high tech, but it is nothing but a spy ship, and India showed a security concern. Sri Lanka agreed, but then it has now changed its mind. Possibly it looks like that because Hambantota is on the lease as far as Chinese are concerned for 99 years, and I'm sure China would have also put tremendous pressure on Sri Lanka otherwise, because the loan, which is of $52 billion, almost 20% of the loan is of Sri Lanka. So I know that Sri Lanka is now in a situation he doesn't know what to do and what not to do. But certainly we expected a better response from Sri Lanka, for the reason being that when they were in dire need, it is India which has helped them. But unfortunately, possibly under tremendous pressure of China and of two things. One is heavy debt, and second thing, Hambantota is a 99 years lease to China. Possibly they changed their mind and gave a very lame excuse that no concrete reasons have been cited by India or by US of not allowing or not letting the docking of spy ship, of so-called spy ship, which is basically a surveillance ship in Hambantota. Vineet.
All right. Commodore Singh, if you're there with us, sir.
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Now, what do you make of this? Is this something that Sri Lanka could have gotten out of? And does this also warrant some sort of a serious reconsideration on behalf of India as to how much we should be helping them?
It's definitely a matter of concern from a security perspective for India. Any Chinese research vessel in the Indian Ocean is there for a very straightforward and simple motive: to get as much information about the Indian Ocean per se, that means maritime domain awareness and undersea domain awareness, because that is very important. You have to, in the maritime domain, the hydrology is a very important factor. And therefore, the more information you have about the hydrology in a particular part of the world, the better prepared you are to use it to your advantage when you're deploying your submarines and ships. So China considers it very important. It's going to be a big player in the Indian Ocean in the future. And so it is very important for it to understand the hydrology of the Indian Ocean. Because if it doesn't understand that, India has a very distinct advantage because India understands the hydrology much better. So from that perspective, it is definitely a matter of concern for India. You would recall that a couple of years ago, I think it was 2019 or perhaps 2020, India had requested another Chinese research vessel to leave the waters of the Indian Ocean. And they had complied. So obviously, this is a matter of concern. China has been increasingly sending its research vessels into the Indian Ocean. On paper, well, they're not naval vessels, they're not warships, they're operating in the open seas. So technically, you cannot object to their presence over there. You cannot object, you don't know what are the activities they're doing, so you can't object to the activities they're doing. So there is a constraint as far as that is concerned. Insofar as Sri Lanka is concerned, even initially, if you realize, they requested China to defer the visit. They did not say that we are not going to allow you to enter Hambantota. Sri Lanka is greatly in hock to the Chinese. Right in the beginning, when Hambantota was, when China bid for Hambantota and Hambantota was given to China, a lot of concern at that time was expressed, and we knew that the future would be an area of concern for us because China is not taking Hambantota for its trade and for trading purposes. That port has never made a profit to date. It has got a strategic overview. There's a strategic design to China's, presence in all these countries and the kind of ports that they're trying to establish control over through their debt trap diplomacy. So Hambantota was always going to be a matter of concern. Now that China has a 99-year lease, I suppose they have some control. I know it probably violates Sri Lanka's sovereign right if Sri Lanka refuses to dock a Chinese ship and despite that it docks. But I'm not sure what the dynamics are. India, I'm sure, would have expressed their concerns with considerable attention that Colombo must pay to India's concerns and India's interests. We have been their, benefactor. We've been their friend. We've been their supporter right from the beginning. China has let them down. As General Sivach mentioned, we have come to their aid. But that does not necessarily mean that they're in a position to refuse China. Not so much perhaps because they're in debt to China, but also perhaps because the dynamics and the terms and conditions of their lease, etc., the kind of deployment the ship is doing, does not allow it to point blank tell China that we will not allow your ship to come in. So they've tried to defer it, but yes, the excuse that they've given that India and the US did not offer adequate justification for seeking this cancellation, I think that will not go down well with the Indian establishment.
Ambassador Manju Seth, if you can hear me, ma'am. Ambassador Manju Seth. Ma'am, I'm not able to hear you.
Unmute.
Please unmute yourself.
You are muted.
Ambassador Manju Seth. Okay, I'm going to move forward. Mr. Arvind Singh Tejawat, are you there with us?
Also muted.
Please unmute yourself. Mr. Tejawat, if you're there with us?
I'm unmuted. Yeah, I'm here.
All right. Well, this is a precarious situation, isn't it? More so for Sri Lanka and an absolute concern for India as well. A Chinese vessel docking so close to our shores and our borders, and Sri Lanka helping out with it is definitely going to be a cause of concern. And the relationship between India and Sri Lanka could also suffer as a result of this.
Yes, I agree. I agree 100%. And I believe that especially in the South Asian region, if any country is entering with their warship or maybe some security issues, and maybe if it's not very much true into that there might not be any the recent threat, but still the Sri Lanka should be more sensitive about the India's concern. The reason behind that the South Asian countries, suppose if the same thing is being with the USA during the Cold War, the Russian sends their missiles to the Cuba. Then even the USA reacted in the same way. So I suppose that the Sri Lanka government should try to understand it, and I suppose that even the China, if they are willing to maintain a good relationship with India, and if they are not willing to indulge with the Indian government, then I suppose they should try to understand the Indian concern. Yeah, that's my belief.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ambassador Manju Seth? Ma'am, are you there with us? Ambassador Manju Seth, there seems to be a problem with your connection, ma'am. I'm going to go to General Sivach again. General Sivach, what should India do at this point in time? You know, this is not something which is going to stand. Hambantota is going to be used by the Chinese in the future as well. If we allow this one, then this is going to become a regular practice, won't it?
Absolutely, Vineet, but then we are in a very tight situation, very tight port. You know, the fact that Hambantota was given for 99-year lease, and this was very well known that though China is telling that it will use for commercial purpose, it is going to be used for military purpose. And of course, of late, Sri Lanka was going, or you can say that was totally in the lap of China. It is only this that in last about 5-6 months, the crucial month when Sri Lanka needed help, it is China which never came forward. In fact, today the economic crisis was so bad, they didn't have money even to buy food and medicine for next day. And that is the time when India came forward, helped them, and also gave them a lot of other things like urea. But we are extremely disappointed that Sri Lanka has not courage to tell Chinese that they will not allow this ship to be docked in Hambantota. I fully agree that it was initially only deferred, not cancelled. But having said so, that we expect the Sri Lankan to concern our sensibility. This is a very serious challenge because China spy ship coming very close to Indian coast, it means they are doing some sort of spying. They also are not only what Commodore was trying to convey, that they are also getting maximum inputs about the sea, also about our intercontinental ballistic missile, rocket, satellite, their launches, their launch pad. So China will go in a long way to get maximum input about India. And remember, in Indian Ocean, the China is coming in a big way. And what has happened is that till now, we still have advantage in Indian Ocean that we are closer and Chinese have to come almost about 4,000 to 5,000 kilometers. But that gap is narrowing down. And that is where is a matter of concern. And the way that China has taken all these ports, start from Puakapur in Myanmar, then Chittagong in Sri Lanka, Hambantota in Sri Lanka, Chittagong in Bangladesh, and then Maldives, one of the islands has been taken, and then Djibouti in East Africa, and then Gwadar. They are trying to surround India, and they are trying to put tremendous pressure. And Hambantota is sitting on the, basically, you can say on the mouth of Indo-Pacific. And Hambantota, the way it is being used by Chinese, is a total cause of concern for us. You know, we always keep on talking that tomorrow, in case the war takes place, the India has a capacity and capability to choke Malacca state. I don't think this will carry on for too long. And the China is coming in a big way, slowly and steadily. They will have majority of their submarines sort of lurking in Indo-Pacific. And therefore, the point is, India has helped Sri Lanka tremendously. They should have been more sensitive to our concern. Giving a lame excuse that we have not given them a concrete reason does not stand to scrutiny. We must have given them the security reason. It doesn't have to be spelled out so much because, you know, you can't officially challenge this. Officially, it is only basically a high-tech monitoring ship. But I suppose the response could have been a better from Sri Lanka. I don't know what are the compulsions, but then expectations were huge from Indian side, especially when we have gone out of way to help them out by giving a $4 billion loan and also other facilities when the chips were down. Vineet.
Ambassador Manju Seth, ma'am, I hope you can hear me now. And I'm able to hear you. Ambassador Manju Seth. Okay. Commodore Singh, sir?
Yes, yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Is this supposed to be a choice that India is supposed to shove down its throat? Because this definitely seems to be a choice Sri Lanka has made.
No, I don't agree that it's a choice Sri Lanka has made. I don't think Sri Lanka really had an option. You know, there is something called an accepted international rules-based order at sea. There is no hostile intent in the Chinese ship coming into Hambantota. There is no hostile intent of the Chinese survey ship being in the open seas in the Indian Ocean. So I'm not sure how strong is Sri
There's
Sri
a
Lanka's ground.
problem, they can't instead. I can hear everything, but
We-
when can
Should I continue?
Yeah, sir, please continue.
So I'm not sure how strong are they legally to prevent a ship from entering or docking in a port which is not even perhaps controlled fully by them. You know, Hambantota was right, like I said right from the beginning, Hambantota was going to be a bone of contention. As General Sivat said, China has a design in the Indian Ocean. It's going to be a huge presence over here. It has established a presence in most of the ports in the Indian Ocean region, including the Bay of Bengal. It is building a submarine base in Bangladesh called the BNS Sheikh Hasina. So it is here to stay. Now, the Malacca Straits are very important to China, and that's why you have the CPEC and through Myanmar they're having a land corridor so that they do not get choked by by their enemy, whoever it may be, by an adversary in the Malacca Straits, with 60% of their trade passing through the Malacca Straits and most of their energy passing through the Malacca Straits. So that is what is otherwise known as the Malacca dilemma. So certainly China would want to have a presence at the approaches to the Malacca Straits, be it Hambantota, be it the Maldives, or be it any other of the islands in that area, so that they can counter any threat to their own trade moving. They justify their presence there by saying that we are not coming to the Indian Ocean to threaten anybody. We are coming here to ensure the safety and security of our own trade, which is not really unjustified. I mean, India also pays a lot of attention to the Indo-Pacific because 40% of our trade is with the Indo-Pacific countries, east of the Malacca Straits. Otherwise, frankly speaking, why would India really be interested in what's happening in the Western Pacific? We should be focusing our attention totally on the Indian Ocean. So this is all about, connectivity and globalization and trade dependencies which now transcend geographies. Every country's maritime interests extend far beyond its own area of interest and its maritime boundaries. It extends across the globe. If you recollect, a few years ago, we were very concerned when China objected to the presence of ONGC in Vietnam. They said it's in disputed waters and told Vietnam to remove that production platform from there. We resisted. Vietnam resisted. So this is all goes on at sea. Yes, but India must very clearly articulate its position to its neighboring countries, to its strategic neighborhood, on where it stands in their support to a Chinese presence in these waters. That I think needs to be articulated, be it a naval presence or be it a quasi-naval presence like a research ship, which is there primarily for collecting information that will be of use to the Chinese Navy at a later date. So I think that is the important factor. India would, of course, object strongly and should object strongly and make sure that these countries are very clear about where their loyalties lie as far as their sphere of influence or their own interests. Who do they think are better served to protect their interests in the region? So I think that we should definitely insist on.
Okay, all right. Mr. Tajawat? Mr. Tajawat, if you can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah, please tell me.
Right. Well, India also needs to safeguard its own sovereignty and its security. And this is going to be a dialogue which India was expecting in the past. It is something which has come to the fore now. Where does this leave Sri Lanka, and where does this leave Sri Lanka's dependence on China, which obviously the Sri Lankans themselves want to cut out?
Right. You are right, actually. The Sri Lanka is, of course, a sovereign country, but at the same time, she should be more sensitive about the Indian security issues. And I understand the situation of the Sri Lanka is just like a tongue between teeth. So Sri Lanka is basically between India and trying to manage and balance the relationship between India and China. I understand, but at the same time, India is a sovereign country and have all the right to make a voice and to make a voice of protest that the Chinese should, and any the warship or maybe any kind of ships which may not be directly a recent threat for the. Of course, I understand that this is a peaceful situation nowadays, but still the Sri Lankan government should try to understand the situation. Here, I would like to refer the Indian foreign policy towards Sri Lanka, which I suppose that the partially failed, because in the beginning, the Sri Lankan government even offered to take off the project of the Hambantota, but at that moment, the Indian diplomats and government did not take it seriously because of some financial reasons. So I suppose if India want to play a strong role and wish to make that not only the Sri Lanka, but also all South Asian countries should remain concerned and should give enough importance to the Indian voice, then I suppose first we shall try to make ourselves very strong, and India should tell Sri Lanka that the balanced kind of politics will not work, and India should send a clear message to the Sri Lankan government that okay, if the Sri Lanka is willing to go for a good relationship between two countries, then she must be more concerned about the Indian security issues. And at the same time, Indian government should make it clear that we respect the Sri Lankan sovereignty as well. We understand that the Sri Lanka is a sovereign country, but at the same time, India has its own security concerns. Because if such kind of ships are very close to the southern part of India, then there are lots of atomic related centers, and there are lots of other things where the Chinese government can go for the video recordings and all that. So we should give the message to the Sri Lankan government at least, and if they have and if they are very much fair about it, then at least they should allow the Indian government to let it be clear and to make a trust that there is nothing like any security threat to the India. So I understand that these things should be included when the India is making a dialogue with Sri Lanka. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good points there. Ambassador Manju Seth, I hope you can hear me. Okay, there still seems to be a problem with your connection. We're almost out of time as well. General Sivach, India had problems when Hambantota came about. This was perhaps a matter which should have been or could have been addressed when it came about. Do you think that we should have been a little more proactive in looking at how China could manipulate this situation further? General Sivach?
We should have been more proactive. But then the problem, the constraint is the financial. You see, as far as Sri Lanka is concerned, it is in a need of financial help. And that is when the China came, and this Hambantota Port was totally funded by China. And Sri Lanka could not repay it, and that's why they have given for 99 years lease. What is going to happen in Gwadar is also same. So that Gwadar port, which has been made part of China-Pakistan economic corridor, again, Pakistan will not able to repay it. And there are rumors that the Gwadar port.
Hello.
Okay. Manju ma'am, can you hear me now?
Can you hear me?
All right, Manju ma'am, just hold on. Let me in fact let General Sivach conclude his thought, then I'll try and come to you. General Sivach, conclude your thoughts, sir. We don't have time also.
Yeah. So what I was saying is that of course we should have been more proactive as far as Hambantota is concerned, but the constraint is financial, and that is how the Chinese have a deep pocket. They could influence it. They have invested in Hambantota, and Sri Lanka cannot repay it, and hence they had no choice but to give Hambantota for 99-year lease. Vineet.
All right. Ambassador Manju Seth, ma'am, I hope you can hear me, and we'll try talking to you one last time. Ambassador Manju Seth.
All right. I can hear you. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, ma'am. Ma'am, your thoughts on what's happened? Ma'am, your thoughts on what's happened? We have run out of time. I'm going to try and accommodate your perspective as to what's happening here. Is this a big security concern for India?
Yes.
And should Sri Lanka have been a little more sensitive towards, this request of India?
I think we have conveyed our concerns, but beyond that, Sri Lanka is a sovereign country, and I don't think, as our spokesperson has also said, we can insist. We can only convey our concerns, and I think Sri Lanka also has its constraints. I feel, given that the port really belongs literally to China at the moment. And the second issue is that China is saying that it is only going to stop for refueling. And I think that is something for which no one can they think no one can object. And for Sri Lanka, it's a very difficult situation. They would like to take India's and the US's concerns into consideration. But I think what has happened, for India, it's going to be a big security concern, because it's a very high tech, very high, with high equipment on it, very fine, high-tech equipment. and it also has the capacity to launch missiles from there. So I think it is it's a big security risk for us. It's in the Indian Ocean region, but as mentioned before by other panelists, it's a very for China, this is in our interest, and they are able to exert pressure on Sri Lanka to some extent by saying that you cannot, though the visit was deferred, but I think, the way they have invested and what they are doing in the port city of Colombo, and of course Hambantota is with them, so they are able to exert much more pressure, and they would like to secure their interests in the Indian Ocean region, given that it is an important sea line of communication. And for maritime security purposes, it's a very important area, very close to India. So they would like to keep an eye on India and put pressure on India too. But it is very unfortunate, and I do think Sri Lanka could have done more, but I'm not sure it is in a position to do more. Vineet.
All right, ma'am. Well, I'm happy we could get your word in, but this is definitely a concern India is going to be flagging a lot more than once. We've tried to explain to Sri Lanka that this is an absolute compromise of the way we want to in fact function in the Indian Ocean, and how China could disrupt that vision as well as India's security ecosystem and atmosphere.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.